Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and, with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Welcome, everybody, to Nightlight. So glad you could be with us tonight. We have to thank Ken Quiethawk for that amazing intro. You can find him and his lovely wife at nativestorytellers.com. Please check out that website because it does have a great deal of information, insight, and wisdom connected to it, and getting more and more in touch with First People and Native Americans, whatever they want to be called these days, and their history and their mysticism and their magic is an amazing experience, and to experience his voice is just phenomenal. Tonight is a different night. Tonight, Mark and I are going to share the spotlight, and I'm very excited because this is a time where we can kind of compare notes, address what kind of shows we want to do, how we want to do them, what our format is. After 8 months, it's about time we figured all this out, actually. So I'm going to welcome to the show the host for tonight, Mark Eddy. Welcome, Mark.
Hey, Barbara, how are you?
Doing well.
Good. Has the bear been around?
No. I have stopped feeding the birds, so Teddy doesn't come around any longer. And since my house is for sale, it would be not advisable to have a bear running around in the yard when people are trying to check out the gardens. It might discourage people.
Okay, well, it could work the other way and make it a game. Teddy could be the first specimen in a game preserve or something like that. He's
a very sweet bear. So long as you have a bird feeder and bird seed, he just couldn't be cuter. I mean, usually you don't expect them to just wander in, say, 4 bird feeders, and take them down one at a time, take them over to the sun, and sit down and munch like lunch boxes. And, you finish one lunchbox, you get up, you go back for the next. He went through 4 bird feeders that day. He was in my yard for about 2.5 hours. Not scared, not frightened. I took pictures, nothing. Just, hi, how are you? I mean, I didn't go out to pat him.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he's appreciative of the buffet you put out for him.
Yes. Nope. It's actually it's that time of year when the birds don't really need to be fed. There's plenty of stuff on the trees and berries and all sorts of things coming out. So the birds are doing fine. And until next winter, and even then I don't think I'll start it again because not all bears hibernate, and Teddy was around all winter. So there is just, first of all, I can't afford the bird feeders. Second of all, I can't afford the bird seed because he wipes me out every time I fill the feeders, and the feeders should last for at least a week. So all things considered, much as I love the birds, I don't have a safe way to feed them, so I'm not going to. I have been here 15 years. I have fed the birds here for 15 years, and this is the first year I've had a bear in the yard. But he definitely likes my yard.
Okay. Do you know how old he is? Does he have a collar on him?
No, and he doesn't have a tag in his ear either. I know his den is where I live on a dirt road and in the woods, actually. And though I have neighbors, there's space between us. So they know kind of where his den is, and I call him a he. But 2 years ago, a black bear with 2 cubs was in the area as well. So I don't know if Teddy is a male Teddy or a girl Teddy. I don't know if it's Teddy with a Y or Teddy with an IE. So it's hard to tell with all the fur. So, but I do know that he does have a den nearby, and he doesn't sleep too soundly because it's dead of winter. He's been ripping my bird feeders apart. I can't tell you how many bird feeders I have accused the raccoons of ruining, and only to find out that it was Teddy. And I mean, one night I was doing a show, and I have a cat porch that's all screened in, that the cats can go outside and come, go back and forth, and they can't go anywhere except this 4-foot, 5-foot square porch. And one night they came they came through that cat door and through the kitchen, and I don't know where they went, but I swear their feet didn't touch the ground. And all I could think of is what the daylights could possibly have frightened you that much. And I put the porch light on only to be looking nose to nose with a black bear, and it was like, oh, okay, I'd run through it. I turned the light off and I left, So, I mean, I'm pretty brave when there's a glass between us, but that dang thing is at least 7 feet, maybe closer to 8 on his hind legs. So, I just vacated the room and left it dark and quiet. He ambled off.
Yeah, it is startling to see a bear when you're not expecting it. And it's like, when it's happened to me, it's like, that's just a big dog, and you just have to process that that's something so unusual that it just takes a while to sink in. You're not expecting a bear to be standing there looking at you, or running out in front of the car. I texted my son and I said, John, I have a bear on my deck, and he texted me back and he said, right, Mom, you have a bear. And so I took a picture of Teddy and sent it to him, and I got this text back, Mom, you have a bear on your deck. I said, yes, John, I do. No, it is an experience, and it's one that I'm glad I've had. I don't need to continue having it, and happily, so long as the gates to my yard are closed, Teddy doesn't come over the chain link fence. He comes through the door, and if the door's open, he wanders in, and if the door's not open, he stays out. So it is controllable. Okay.
Happily.
All right. Okay. So now that we have the zoo update from your your property. Anyways, we'll get in some other show ideas that we're working on tonight. And it's like since yesterday was tax day, we don't have to get into that too much on tonight's show. But I think that like this show would probably be somewhere like 8.5 months into this merged show idea. Seems like only 3 months, but we're approaching. I think we're over 8 months, and I'm sure the listeners are wondering when the baby's going to be born. This is Nightlight, so nothing is too normal. The gesticulation period for, I don't know, this project could be more like a test tube baby. I don't know. Maybe it's already born and walks among us. I have no idea.
Well, it's when I found that you were available, and I have to admit, I had listened to you on Canvas. I had listened to you on the other show you did. I can't remember the name of. Yeah, the other show. I'm so sorry. I don't remember the name of it. But I have always.
I'm trying to give myself a lobotomy from that one.
Well, I have listened to you on many different shows that you've been a part of, and always been impressed by the kinds of people you brought on, the people you brought on, the material you covered, and frankly, always been very jealous because you had such wonderful guests, and you were always definitely co-hosting with someone else. And when you left the Freedom Slips, I thought, ooh, I should grab him, and I didn't have time because you went to yet another show as a co-host again. And so when I heard you were looking for something else, I thought, I can't just ask you to be a co-host. That's an insult. Let's just give him his own show, and then he won't leave because you're in charge. So and I think I was very upfront that I will steal any great guests that you have that I like. So not steal, but I will get an intro so that I can get them on the Monday night show. And well, I was upfront, was I not?
No, yeah, you were.
Okay,
so.
But it's
up front. I don't know. Does that cross over into domineering, where you just said you're just working for me now?
I don't think I quite.
I don't even say anything.
But I may
it's
have.
just.
I may have, but I did say it was your show, that I would be your co-host if you wanted. I would work the switchboard and I would do all the techie stuff. So. And it's worked really well, and you've had some amazing people on that I have been just so delighted to meet and talk to and get to know. And while my background is spiritual and metaphysical, I've always had, especially with the stone walls and the chambers, that interest in ancient American archaeology and stuff like that. So you brought all of those people in so that the foundation of Nightlight got doubled with all of the ancient stuff and the archaeology and the mounds and the wonderful people that you brought. So the combination of the two, while it doesn't sound like it works, it absolutely does. And I've learned a lot. I had Rick Osman on my show way before you came on board, and he kind of opened me up to all of the copper mines and all of that stuff, so that I had a smattering of fascination for all of these people that you brought to the show. And some of the people I had on my show, but a lot I have not, and I have so thoroughly enjoyed meeting them and getting to know them and learning from the material that you've been presenting. It's fascinating, and hopefully some of the metaphysical, spiritual stuff has rubbed off on you as well.
Yeah, I'm learning, and I think as we go throughout the evening, we'll probably incorporate both aspects, and it's like even the little day trip I did today. Went to the East Steubenville site. It's like a bluff top archaic burial, or the site no longer exists. I think is actually when the highway by the river was expanded. I think that is what destroyed the actual burial place, but it was excavated before it was destroyed. But it's no longer there. I was just kind of in the general vicinity. But if you'd look north up the river, you could see where there may have been a possible ceremonial center along the river, and then the burial crossed a creek, and the person was taken up to the hilltop for interment. So you get. It was an interesting vantage point to see the whole processional route.
Was this an Indian, or was it, how do you, especially
yes.
in that area, how do you know it was an Indian or a pre-Indian? I don't know.
It was an archaic, one carbon date from the site shows 3,000 years ago. The person, the person was buried about 1200 BC.
Now, do they have to rebury them? Is that because I know a lot of the Indian sites, you can't dig up the burials. So, what is the demarcation where it's appropriate to dig and where it's not?
I'm not sure where the skeletal remains are. I think the excavation was done in the 1930s. So I don't.
Oh, okay.
I don't know about that. It was just I could just you could drive to kind of like the just general area where this little shell mound was located. It was actually kind of like on a hillside, not on the bluff top, but you could see about 2 miles north to where there was another archaic ceremonial place along the river, and as I've learned a little bit more about the spirituality from being more immersed in nightlight. You get the sense of how the water played a role in the ceremonial rituals from 3,000 years ago. It's just interesting then going up, burying someone closer to the hilltop, and you're it's a little bit closer to God type idea.
Mm-hmm.
it was just and you could just look up the river and see the just kind of imagine the processional route that was taken.
Mark, how do we, they, archaeologists, how do they identify which mounds are mounds and which mounds are just hills? I mean, is there a difference? Is there a way of telling which has become a repository for either artifacts or a body, or just some place where people dumped a lot of dirt because they had to get it out of the way? I mean, how is it determined that this is a mound to be excavated, or this is dirt we can flatten? How do they tell?
Let's see. I'm not sure how they figured out this one at East Steubenville. It was so long ago. It may have just looked unusual on the hillside. I think it was also a shell mound. So, a big cluster of like freshwater mussel shells on a hillside. It just seems like there was something, human activity there. In the Ohio River valleys, you get a huge bulge in a flat area, and it's like, okay, that just doesn't look normal. And people dug into it and did find skeletons. Sometimes mounds didn't have anything in them. That's actually kind of an interesting subject. What was the purpose for them? There's really no indication of a log-lined tomb. So unless it seems like some of the the Smithsonian, Colonel Norris, Jason has mentioned him several times when he's made his 3 or 4 appearances. And he was a pretty observant guy, and he excavated a couple mounds in the Charleston area, and he didn't find anything. I just wonder, what was the purpose? There was no indication. There really wasn't, a bunch of arrowheads or anything like that in there. Pot. No indication of a burial. What was it for? It may not be really connected to any, a cluster of other mounds or an earthwork. I don't know, what its cultural function was. So it's it's just a fascinating subject.
Now, are the mounds? Because I'm in Connecticut and we have mounds all over the place, but it never would occur to me to think that there was a burial or something in it. But are the mounds themselves, are they indigenous to certain states or certain areas that are mound prone, I guess? I mean, I know that,
I
think
they're
the
pretty much
Mississippi
all over.
Basin.
Yeah, you have them pretty much all over the United States. They're just a lot of them are lining rivers, like the smaller rivers that lead into the Ohio River or Mississippi River. I think it's some areas are more prominent in mounds, but they're still found all over the United States.
Are they? Because I get a feeling that it's mainly like more the center of the country where the mounds are more prominent. Because I know that we've got the chambers here and the stone walls, but and dolmens and stone piles. I mean, I live in an area where our best crop is rock. So there's plenty of stones where around where I live, but as you go more to the west, the land kind of flattens out a little bit, and you have Monk's Mound. Now that's in Ohio, is it? I can't remember where.
That's
Mound
in the St. Louis area. That was covered in the with the Nicholases talking about the Chinese in the St. Louis area at Cahokia. But there's maybe the stone mounds near you were built with stone just because it's more convenient than as a convenient material than just working with clay.
Well, I don't think, to my knowledge anyhow, that I know for sure around the chambers there have been no bones found, and they really, with the stone piles and stuff like that, they really don't suggest necessarily that they are burial. So the only place that I know of where there are remains found have been in the mounds, and it fascinates me because they're so all over the place, and then your farmers or whatever have planted around them as opposed to leveling them, so that they've remained. And here in the East Coast, they just destroyed everything as they plowed on through.
Places like Marietta, Ohio, have done an excellent job of preserving the mounds from the time the settlers first crossed the Ohio River into Ohio. I've worked with a lot of people from a few groups. Hopefully we'll have one representative on soon to talk about when we did the Junction Group, raised $600,000 in 6 days to buy a property. That spirit of preserving the history from the settlers who really didn't have any cultural affiliation with the people buried at the mount, but it was they still preserve they still recognize it as someone's resting place, and there were a lot of people very interested in continuing the same tradition, and Jason and I have spoken about that a number of times, where we don't need to destroy any more mounds to see if there's a giant in it. They've already been documented, so we don't need to prove it anymore. You just get Don Dragoo's Mounds for the Dead. There's a photo of a 7-foot tall skeleton in it. There's your proof.
Also today, they have techniques to go beneath the surface without actually digging something up, so that there are ways of determining whether or not there is something in the mound instead of just decimating it. I know in the 1800s, farmers were just destroying these mounds looking for artifacts and throwing the bones all over the place and looking for pots and necklaces and beads and stuff like that. And
gold.
Yes, absolutely that, and freshwater pearls. there were tons of those. So that there were things in the mounds that easily were of value, whether just because of their because it was gold or it was decorations of some sort, or historically, they tended to loot them for whatever they could get out of them, or for a souvenir of some sort, so that the appreciation for antiquity for over 100 years was totally ignored. And I can't imagine how, can't imagine how much of it was destroyed.
Well, you can just look at the Notre Dame fire yesterday. That was losing 800 years of history, a cultural icon.
The more I look at it, the more I begin to wonder. I mean, yes, the building, a part of it was destroyed, but almost all of the antiquities, of the religious stuff was saved.
Yeah, the crown of thorns.
Yeah, I mean, all of the religious artifacts were saved, and yet the building was destroyed, but the artifacts and most of the artwork has been preserved. So I just find I question the fire, because it seems to me that, if it was a terrorist, and I don't believe it was, they would have done something like that, like on Easter Sunday when the church was full of people. But they waited till the workers were gone. They waited till the public was gone. So I don't think it was an accident, and yet I don't think it was terrorism either. I don't know why or who said it, but too much was saved and not lost for it to have really been an accident. Is my thought right at the moment.
Yeah. Well, since we've touched on a little bit of preserving history. We have guests who will discuss their role in it. With severe destruction that like Notre Dame suffered yesterday, you get some of the like the crown of thorns taken, removed to safety.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what's some. You lose the stained glass windows. That was an artwork in itself. But
most of them are preserved. Most of them were preserved, though, Mark.
Oh, they were?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe it's the views I saw. It looked like the windows were broke. Weren't there anymore. Okay. Well, that's stand corrected. But so some of the artwork was other artwork was saved, but it just shows you how much like some of those what a major mounds like being destroyed could really upset people. And I think just sit and watch. It might be one of the people buried in the mound could be some great grandfather, but it's still part of your family. And I'm sure that something like that would could be upsetting to like a native person living, just say Ohio, when this like Farmer Jones is just getting set up with his plantation or not farm, and he just plows the mound down. It's very similar to the same thing. Cultural shock to just lose something that was part of the community, and I hope that Nightlight can help to make people more aware of the need to preserve history. Like I said, we don't need to prove that there are giants, and we need to just take a bulldozer and just plow some mound down, and look at the center for a giant. It's we already have several of them documented by reliable institutions. We know they're there, and we're preserve history and appreciate it for what it is.
Well, we've destroyed so much of their culture. I can understand them fighting us on every mound out there. I know the house that I lived in for 50 years, I had gardens all over the place. I had worked for 50 years on creating all that beauty and all that magic. And the house is now for sale again, and they have taken all of my gardens out. And I know what that did to me. That was my legacy sort of to the earth there. And I know what it felt like when I realized that all 50 years of my work was gone. I can't imagine how a group of people feels when you're not only destroying places of spiritual reverence to them, but the bones of their ancestors. I mean, I can't imagine the outrage, the hurt, the feeling of being erased that those people must feel because of what we as a culture, thinking we were above it all, have done to them. So I think it's very appropriate that sometimes the laws restrict the archaeologist to a certain degree, but it's to preserve what's left, and there's so little left. It's just so pathetic. I can't believe that we, as in the U.S. as a culture, have been so heartless, so unthinking, so unfeeling, to trample away the history of a race of amazing people. Mm-hmm. I mean, we haven't totally done it, but it's being done.
Right, and there are a lot of people who just say, like gave you the example of the Junction Group projects from was that 4 or 5 years ago? There were like different historic preservation groups out there, but they were working together to get grants and contact their the people in their group for pledges. I got involved in it, or I was contacted, and as a way to get the information out there to the listening audiences. And Jared made the case. Well, Jared and another one of our colleagues, Bruce, made the case on a number of shows about the need to preserve this site, and there's like 9 earthworks and 4 mounds strewn across like a 300-acre farm, and all after working with all the different groups of people, they weren't putting it. I won't put aside any differences like we don't want to work with this group, or it was just okay. Everyone's just doing their share to raise like the $600,000 to purchase this property to make sure that there isn't a neighborhood built on the 300 acres. It's now a little park, and hopefully when we have Jared on to talk about the 2-volume series from the Chillicothe Hopewell Conference from a couple years ago, he can tell us a little bit about that, the status of the park. It's I think they have different a darker green grass around the earthworks, and then there's like a lighter grass between the spaces. But and they are not going to rebuild the mounds. They're just preserving their locations with the darker grass. But they have another project going on, kind of like that, about a mile upstream, and it's kind of like the same type of setup where there's a number of earthworks in a huge field. I think Jared was on one of the shows I was hosting a few years ago, or co-hosting a few years ago, and we did a little segment on the Steel Group, but that kind of brings us back to like the Notre Dame idea, where you have like the Junction Group, like 9 earthworks and the 4 mounds. And you get the Steel Group. I had like a whole bunch of other mounds and earthworks in this field. Why do you have these two huge? Okay.
You go ahead. No, I have a question.
Oh.
It's just, you are so into all these mounds and everything, and it just occurred to me, I've never asked you, how did you get into all of this? What was it that brought you into the archaeology and the antiquity and the mounds? What is it that when and how did you become so fascinated with it all?
Okay. Well, let me just finish my one point about
sure.
the Steel Group.
Yeah.
But so you have two. The Steel Group is just right around the corner from the Junction Group. So you have these two huge ceremonial centers really close together. We don't. It's still too early to tell which one was built first. Why were they being used at the same time? I don't know. We just don't know at this point. But it's like with Notre Dame, you have this huge cathedral. It was kind of like in the center of the island, and then just a little on the other island or the northern end. It's been a while since I've looked at that Parisian map, but you get that Saint Chapelle Church, which is actually it's a smaller Gothic cathedral, but I mean it's just as impressive, but in a different way. It's it's a little smaller, more compact, but on the second floor you have the long, narrow stained glass. It's just it's a really what do you call it? Overwhelming. I don't know if that's really. It's a spectacle.
Yeah.
But it I was just trying to make a comparison. Like you just have these two churches, and then the two fields with the earthworks in them. It's like what does it say about a culture that has like just a concentrated spiritual center in such a small area? I just think that's interesting. But I've always been interested in okay, just looking at the map.
I didn't realize that there was an island in the middle of Paris, to be honest with you. They kept saying that
I think the one on the right is where Notre Dame is. Then I think the one in the middle of that image is where Saint Chapelle is. But I've always been interested in dinosaurs, and just growing up in the Ohio Valley. It just happens. All the Dean and Hopewell stuff is just there.
Yeah, it is.
Short drives, and the more I keep reading, hopefully, keep asking. Maybe I'll try to get Cheryl as a guest. You can actually find her book.
Well, it's fascinating because there is so much history that is all around us that the history books don't talk about. And I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, I'd seen the walls and I'd seen the chambers, and it never crossed my mind that here was a culture or a people that we knew nothing about that had created stuff, and that's part of ancient history. It never crossed my mind. And until, Patrick pulled it up and said, "Do you know anything about this?" And I said, "I live in the middle of them, but I don't know anything about them." It opened a door to so much confusing and exciting material that was so profound. And then, of course, through the chambers and the stone walls, then I got into the giant stuff, which fascinated me. And again, antiquity that I had never, ever heard of. And, like you, I have a very academic background. And that I knew nothing really about. The history of the land that I was living on was overwhelming. And then, of course, after the giants, then it became the mounds and the ancient flower beds that covered sometimes up to 300 acres. And you know, you step back and you think, how horrible was my education, that none of this material of the land that I live on and the continent that is my home, that I didn't know about any of this. I mean, as far as I knew before any of this started, you know, the pilgrims came to this country, and there were little groups of hunter-gatherers around that helped them out through the first winter. Did not know of the empire that the Iroquois had. Did not know about 9,000 years of stuff up in Michigan and Minnesota. Didn't know anything about the mounds. I mean, the mounds are fascinating to me. And you know, ancient Egypt and Greece and Rome, yeah, I knew about them. But we have stuff as old here, and nobody told me.
Right. And if you know, when I was, when I had my stint as a history teacher, as well as being a certified English teacher, the history textbooks I was using at a parochial school, or they pretty much it just like were just photos of like a couple like Native American children, recent photos with the kids doing some kind of ceremonial dance with a an outfit on. That's there's
the native folk that get the most attention are the Western Indians that were forced onto reservations and stuff. They give a little more material on that, but they don't do a thing about the center of the country or the East Coast, or the Native Americans that were here. And I mean, my God, the Iroquois nation, I mean, the Founding Fathers borrowed part of their constitution for ours. I mean, talk about being advanced. I mean, holy mackerel.
Yeah, and that's not really taught. And like the textbooks I was using, it was more like it was just kind of like. I'm sure that the editors never left their air conditioning offices to go to Arizona in the middle of summer to get these photos. It was just like kind of like stock footage of a sample of, okay, here's Cherokee people doing this, and you get the Navajo, and then George Washington did this, and Thomas Jefferson. It was just just like you had to cover the native people, and then you get inundated with it was the Christian European people that made America what it is today. Well, you just said that Ben Franklin is looking at the Iroquois Confederacy. Mason and Mike spoke about that. It was they're drawing from a rich legacy that was here for a long time, and the textbooks really aren't, or really showing a cultural bias, and it's just really unfortunate. I just think a lot of the shows that we're doing just touches on what a lot of us weren't taught in high school. We're just kind of looking at it now, or just discovering, or maybe rediscovering might be a better word. Now, as 20, 30 years after, we should have been taught this. We just are making these realizations now, and one of the things that, after I just kind of got started on, the 5-year career with Ancient American Magazine, is it didn't lead me to meeting people like Cheryl Clausen. I've read some of her papers. I have a couple of her books. Hopefully, she'll be a guest sometime. But one of the she's one of the people, just one of those kind of people that, I would say, just really inspires someone. And when I was reading her Feasting with Shellfish in the Southern Ohio Valley on page 195, and over on 196, she wrote, "Yet the heaps and mounds of the Southern Ohio Valley are repeatedly denied such a role or ignored in summations of archaic ritual life." That's more of like really far downstream, Tennessee, Kentucky. That's the Southern Ohio Valley. Okay. It is time to put forward a stronger case for the Ohio Valley shell-bearing sites as ritual locations and even as accretional burial mounds. That was like one of those lines where it was like, and she has spoken about it, and I just, I just told her, that's, one of those just, sentences that really means a lot to me, because I live here, and I'm just becoming more aware of the importance of the archaic places, and you're talking about it's they are just pretty much denied and ignored in the more southern regions, and here in the northern handle it's like no one cares. But it's that one line, she's gets me. It was actually, it stopped raining. There's enough sun for a little bit today to get out and maybe get hopefully some good photos. And that's why I went up to the bluff top to get a perspective of where this little mound was excavated like 90 years ago. But this I told Cheryl that it's like that's what's gave me really interested in the archaic culture, or panhandle archaic culture, and she doesn't know a whole lot about it because there's just not a whole lot of information available. It's like the excavations were done like 80, 90 years ago. The field notes have been lost. We just kind of know that this little shell heap was located about this at this place, and she said, "Well, okay, since you live there, it's your project now." Like, okay, thanks. And she said, just contact me if you need, if you find out anything. So, hopefully, she can be a guest at some point, and we can go into more detail about it. Maybe actually get a honorary degree from her or something like that. But it's
one can always hope.
Yeah, I mean, it's stuff like that. Just I think there are a lot of shows out there where if you want ETs 24/7, they're out there.
Sure.
Yeah, even with our Ancient Aliens connections, we aren't. That's not our dominating topic. We have more of a variety show. I don't think we're super extreme.
No, I think
even
that...
like.
Go ahead.
Having someone like, when we had Deanne Weimer as a guest, she's pretty much mainstream. She's a curator of a, when she's not teaching at Bloomberg University, she's going to the Susquehanna Museum.
Well, I think
on the New York Pennsylvania border, but she's still she's still not she's not going to go for discussing alien engineering on our show. She just gave us great information about the Snake Den Mound. Hey, get these little ingots of silver that were found there, and some of the other mysteries up on this windswept hill out in this plain overlooking downtown Columbus.
Well, the purpose of Nightlight has been, was when I started it, and continues to be, a show to shed light. And that means everything, and UFOs to unicorns and everything in between. It's sort of a place, I hope, where you can approach any subject, and so long as you are doing it honestly and sincerely, we support it. I think that there are a lot of people out there doing amazing work in different areas that up until doing the show, I never even heard about. So it's been an exciting adventure, and of course, you with all of the expertise you bring in an area that I don't have expertise is really quite exciting, because it means that we can put more information out there. I mean, from hidden beds in Michigan and Minnesota that are thousands of years old, to a researcher that can tell the age of something by the age of the dirt, which was fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
To people who are doing research in biblical stuff. And, I'm not averse to the UFO stuff. I'm fascinated by UFOs. I've seen one. And over the last 50 years or so, my opinion as to what it is I saw has changed and altered greatly over time. And the cool thing about the show is we don't make, really judgments. We present information and insight, and hopefully people will, either say, wow, yeah, that's cool, I can believe that, or let me check that out, or they must be crazy, let me see if I can find proof that they're wrong. I mean, the show is meant to make people think and to stir their imagination so that they look at different possibilities. The show is not meant to in any way criticize or point fingers at anybody or anything. And I think sometimes I will share, I will take blame for this. Every now and then I think it's important that we talk about what it is we're trying to do. We're trying to educate, we're trying to give people options, we're trying to give people information that they might not have heard before. I know that you had Ahmed Osman on the other night, and he was going into biblical stuff that had never occurred to me. Now, did I swallow it whole hog? No, but I certainly, it sent me back to the books, and I'm going to read it, and he's going to be on my show as well. But the purpose of the show is to give people information, not to tell them how to think. And
right.
It's a platform for people to present what they've worked on, not to attack someone, not to point fingers, not to the one thing that I hate that I try to avoid totally on the show is politics. Partly because I don't know enough about it, or there's so much going on that I can't possibly understand it all, or it's just that when you get people, especially with politics, that are so diametrically opposed, you get arguments, you get fights, and that's not what the show is about. And you are bringing so many wonderful people onto the show to share their wisdom, to share their insight, to share their information, and that it's a place where people can listen to information, be stirred by it, be tantalized by it, want to research it more. It's not a place where I'm going to tell anybody how they should think or how they should, I'm not going to attack anybody either, because that's not the point of the show either. It's kind of like, this is not a platform to express my own personal opinion. It's a place to put different information out there and let people make their own minds up. And I think that you're kind of on the same page with me.
Oh yeah, it's you can look at Ahmed's information from last week's show, where I don't think he challenged traditional biblical history.
Philosophy.
I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, philosophy. He wasn't. I don't think he was attacking it. I think he.
No, he said, here's an alternative.
No, but there was, but he had some substance behind it, like it's some like the dimensions of Solomon's temple can also be found at was it Luxor? It was like one of the it's somewhere like Memphis or Luxor. I just forget right off the top of my head. And if you remember, if you heard the show, I just gave more of the. It seems very possible that there that some of the scribes had attributed some feats to these biblical kings, but they're based on much like the Pharaoh's exploits throughout the Middle East, like from 500 years earlier, and we have the same thing happening in if you can read like Jeffrey Ash's like the rediscovery of King Arthur. It's very possible that there really wasn't one person, King Arthur. It could have been like a couple, like contemporaneous regional kings that may have done like defeated the Saxons or something like that. Kind of like around the same time, and their battlefield exploits were just kind of like melded into like one person, and it's kind of how we get this one person named King Arthur. Yeah, if it happened in like 500 A.D., I don't see why it couldn't happen. 1000 between 1500 and 1000 B.C. There's a pattern for it. I don't think Ahmed was attacking Christianity.
No.
They're just giving us a realistic view of what may have happened, and I do remember. I think it was either before the show, or I may have said it during the show. But Chaucer, wrote a poem about his scribe or secretary Adam, who screwed up the dictations that Chaucer gave, and Chaucer had to use the little eraser or scratch off the wax and correct Adam's misspellings and the wrong word, the wrong couplet or whatever. Things like that happen. You see that in Shakespeare's translations. It happens, and I think Ahmed wasn't setting out to destroy anyone's faith. It's just presenting something that there is. It may have happened. I just listed a few examples of where there is a historical precedent for it. And
I think he did a great job of presenting all that information, and again, it's something to think about. He's written a couple of great books on the subject, interesting to look at, fascinating to read. You don't have to accept it, but it's fascinating, and it's another level, it's another layer of wisdom that you can apply to your life and utilize the information, and that's the purpose. And we had Dr. Greg Little on, and he talked about Edgar Cayce and the Atlantis material, which I found totally fascinating. It's putting this information out there. We're not saying you have to believe it, but listen to it. It's interesting. It gives you another layer. It gives you a little more richness, and if nothing else, it gives you pieces of trivia you can throw out when conversation lags, that'll have people looking at you and like where did you get that one? But it's information, and it's great information. And these people that we have on the show, for the most part, are absolutely so immensely well educated, and they have done such research. And Michael Cremo, it took him 8 years to write his book, and almost as long for me to read it. So, there's amazing research that has gone behind the books that these people have written, and I have such great respect for them, for all of the work that they put into it, and for the material they put through, and for their dedication to getting information out there to the general public, and we provide a platform for that. And I'm very excited about it, and for 10 years, Nightlight has been doing this, and certainly not in the beginning, not as many of the interviews, but it has come to be an interview show, basically, in which we're putting out there fascinating, wonderful stuff, and that both Mark and I are really into. I mean, when we see the catalogs with new books out there, we salivate over some of them because it's such great stuff. And you want to first read the book and then put the information out there. And both of us put the effort into reading the book and knowing the material before we have someone on the show. Almost always. I mean, there are times that we slip, but almost always we have done a significant amount of research as well, so that we don't sound like idiots talking to these people. And it's and it's exciting, I do, we're getting, towards almost the end here. We got like 42 minutes, and I do want to bring up the fact that we did have a show a number of weeks ago that in which the people we interviewed kind of went off track, and neither Mark nor I caught it. And I mean, it's been edited, so it's no longer there. But we really do apologize if anyone was upset by anything any of our guests have ever said, because that isn't our intent ever. And I think one of the other things one of the reasons for this show also is that there was an attack launched on psychics and mediums that I took great offense to, because I am a psychic and a medium and a spiritual empath. And they basically, their belief system was that they're all frauds and they're all fakes, and that quite a number of churches use religion to blackmail people into contributing money. And my initial reaction was picking my jaw up off the floor and wondering, how did that happen? But I feel that it is necessary for me to make a statement that while psychics and mediums and spiritual empaths and all of that particular genre, there are many wonderful people who are sincerely sensitive, and Edgar Casey's one of them, and they are here and they are trying to help people, and they're trying to help people find their talents and their gifts and expand them so they can utilize them within this reality. As with every profession, as with every walk of life, there are frauds. And there are people that will lie to you, and there are people that will manipulate you in every profession, from the infomercials on TV to politicians, to everybody has the capacity to either be authentic or not. And especially when you're going to someone like a psychic or a medium or an empath or whatever title they choose to utilize, it's up to the person that is going to go to them to check them out, to check their websites, to check their backgrounds, to It's the same thing as if you were going to a dentist or a doctor. Check them out. See what kind of background they have. See what kind of references they have. It's you would do that if you were going to a doctor or a foot doctor or a shrink or finding a good hairdresser. You would check them out, and you do the same thing with everybody, with every profession. So while there are fabulous people out there, the things that our guests accused psychics and mediums of doing, I have to admit I've been in the field for over 50 years and I've never done any of them. And I know a lot of people that can say the exact same thing. So do due diligence and research before you invest your time, your energy, your money, and your spirit in any particular endeavor. So that's my statement. Do you want to add to it?
Yeah. Well, that last quarter of the recent show did start as a cathartic moment, and I just kind of kept going on, and if just kind of getting it out on live radio is going to help you heal, well, okay, that could be a nice aspect of a nightlight service, but it just kind of kept going on, and segued down other paths, and we're just watching the train wreck, and like I don't know. Yeah. I didn't know how to start. Because I'm not really into silencing people. I'm all for the First Amendment. But yeah, it just it did get out of hand, and I didn't know how to. I don't have access to pulling the plug. It's like both of us just didn't know how to stop it, and we may have made some mistakes at that time, and and that wasn't the intention of the show.
No.
Yeah,
and I think what really, in retrospect, what really got to us was that it went from an emotional catharsis, not appropriate for the air, to attacking my profession, and then moving into slander. And like Mark says, we just kind of sat there watching the train wreck. And but don't go looking for the show because we've edited all of that out. Sorry, but and we edited it out to protect the person that was saying it because it was slander, and they could have been sued. So we're trying real hard to put out great material, and to be honest, the show that is up there has great material in it. It was a good show until the little breakdown in the last half hour. So, but I did want to get out there a rebuttal that there are very honest, accurate, authentic psychics and spiritual healers and all sorts of. There are real good people out there doing good work, and there are good churches out there doing good work too. I mean, there are some that work to turn the profit a lot more than others, but that's your choice. You take a look at it, you make a choice, and you go to where you feel good about it. And that was the one thing I loved about Ahmed, I can't.
Ahmed,
Mr. Osman. That's the one thing I loved about he finished up his interview with, I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. What you believe in is your belief, and you're entitled to it. And basically, there's one God, and you can call that God whatever you want to. You can worship him or her any way you want to. I mean, it was I think one of your best shows, Mark. I think that he pulled it together. He gave all sorts of cool information, and he basically said, I'm not trying to change anybody's belief system. I'm trying to give you options and other material to look at, to consider. Which is, he was a fabulous guest, and I'm really glad that you got him on, and I'm really looking forward to having him on myself. So, as I said, I would I would take advantage of your connections better.
Well, yeah, and that was just last week's show, and he's coming up next Monday, and I think we were talking about a little bit ago. If Nightlight, for the 10 years, Nightlight's been a variety show. For the nearly 9 months I've officially been a part of Nightlight, it's this little part 2 is it's still a variety show.
Absolutely.
It's not. There's so many. I talk to other hosts. They're just getting tired of dealing with the people who want to be guests or the more motivated ET people, and they're just talking about their theory. It's just an oversaturated market, and it's just a lot of people. A lot of that's just not my opinion. That's what I'm hearing from other hosts, and they're like, I just like to get away from unsubstantiated theory, or some people are presenting unsubstantiated theories, and get more involved with proof. Like, say, Dennis's, going to America's Stonehenge. There's the proof right there. It's like you can physically be there. It's not. He has the carbon-14 dating test results presented from reputable labs. There's proof, or right there. There's just a lot. The market is changing, and people didn't like that I had pauses in my speech, and I'm not like the next smooth talking talk show host. That's fine, but a lot of shows or yeah, just really are just focusing on such a narrow topic that they become a flash in a pan. They aren't really generating the longevity of listenership that you've built up for 10 years on Nightlight. It's just how many times can you keep talking about the same UFO stories and all the this esoteric knowledge, just from the same.
Well, that's
and it's just like it's like you want everyone to, trying to teach everyone like all these little, ways to control nature, so that you're teaching the next generation how to be the next Gandalf. It's becoming boring, and what we're trying to do is work on a little bit more diversity, and if you talk with more hosts, like you and I do, they're looking for more divergent topics as well, and it's just the ones who are more they just keep getting more ET type shows because those are the more motivated people. But it's so oversaturated that it's tuning. Audiences are tuning out. They're going somewhere else. They're looking for something else. I we have the like Eastern medicine type show coming up next about a month from now. Some other possibilities, and it's kind of little healthcare type shows. We had one with Noreen was co-hosting with me. We had Carolyn LaRock talking about the 5G. That's a new topic that is needs to be out there. You don't hear it discussed a lot, but it's doing very well on the archives. But we're just trying to. We have some upcoming books like the Jesse James book. It's going to be a little interesting. Talking with a direct descendant, might get a little bit of family information on what was, who was Jesse, this character out of the Old West. What's going on with this like treasure stuff? Okay, so that, there's, we're. The family legends and that kind of stuff is something new. So we're looking forward to that show, and I said with the Bernie's discussion last night about his views of healthcare. Like this Ayurveda topic. Could be like, well, okay, instead of him raising taxes and get other when all these HMOs started 30 some years ago, it's like, this is going to control costs, but everyone knows that the costs are just keep going higher and higher, and there is no end in sight. No one knows how much it is going to cost to, if you just need your like, what's the cheapest procedure done at a hospital? If you're at a hospital, just like
The
clipping
parking
someone's
lot.
toenails. No,
The
an actual
lot.
procedure.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I was going to say the parking lot
But
is
if
the
there's
cheapest thing in the hospital.
Yeah, but if there's if you need something done, like clipping your toenails, like how much is someone actually, or like maybe flicking an eyelash out of your eye? Yeah, just something really, it just takes a second to do. How much does it cost? $10,000? But there's no limit to the amount of money that could be billed for something. Okay, maybe some of these other alternative people we have coming up might actually be presenting information about. Maybe we can reverse this trend of having to raise taxes. Okay, maybe the individual companies can't control prices. Maybe if we look at other alternatives, maybe there is another solution. So maybe diets can really do a lot more than the handful of pills a day. It costs $100 a pill. You have to take it 15 times a day, and of course, it's experimental, so we don't cover that. So you have to pay out of pocket, and you wonder why your this one trip to the hospital actually is you can never pay it off. So even though you have insurance, so Bernie has a good. It does make sense, but what about the free market system? That's proven to be a failure. Maybe some of the ideas that we'll be discussing on some upcoming shows might actually make a difference. I don't know, just like the 5G. Carolyn said that healthcare professionals really haven't caught up with the effects of what's being emitted, from all the gadgets. That could be misdiagnosed.
Well, it's funny because I actually went and found my EVP thingy and took it around my house to see if anything was leaking radiation in my house. And the only place I found leakage of any sort was when my microwave was on, and then the thing went crazy. So, and I think in many ways, I mean, they're not expensive. They only, you can get one for under $25. And I think that we've come to a time where we are responsible for checking things out, like our cell phones, like our radios, like our TVs, like our VCRs, like our microwaves and everything. I mean, there are so many wires above us, below us, and around us that we may be exposed to more radiation, more microwaves, whatever you want to call them. And as she said, it burns you from the inside out. So that having an EVP and going around your house every now and then, making sure that nothing is leaking into your house, into you, without you knowing it. And in a couple of weeks, in a month or so, I'm going to go looking for a new place to live, and I'm taking the EVP with me. I'm making sure
Good
that
idea.
wherever I light is not being saturated by radiation of some kind that can in many ways affect my health. And she was talking about how it affected people's health, how it affected, their eating habits, their sleeping patterns, all sorts of things, and it could also initiate illnesses of some kind down the road. And I think this is a time where everybody should have one of these little gadgets, because you just never know. Things like the Alexas, they're constantly on. They're constantly radiating. And are they sending out some sort of? And I don't care if they're listening. Frankly, nothing goes into my house that's that interesting. But are they sending out some sort of frequency, some sort of radiation that is impacting me and my animals and my guests and my food and everything else? So I am thinking next Christmas, all my friends and my family, everybody's getting an EVP meter so they can check things out, so they can make their environment a little bit more safe and more secure.
That's really a novel idea, and it's
useful.
Yeah, it does remind me of I don't know if it's a perfect analogy, but it's similar to what Dr. Rita was talking about last night with Otzi, the Iceman skeleton found on the in the Alps on the Italian-Austrian border, and she was talking about all the tattoos, or many of the tattoos on him actually showed a understanding of acupuncture.
Yeah.
And
they were.
Yeah.
And what was even more interesting, I mean, that fascinated me, but then she also went into the fact that they investigated, yes, those were acupuncture points, and those points that they were indicating were specifically for medical difficulties and problems that he had, that person had, so that they were very well aware of not only what was wrong with his body, but places that he could press or put pressure on that would alleviate pain. That's not primitive.
No, but it was understood. Was it I think he was flourishing about 5,300 years ago. In her
3,000.
Yeah, I think it. I think he's. And I'm reading out of her. If you want to read a little bit more about that case study, Dr. Rita has an article in Ancient American Magazine. It's issue number 115, and I think he would be 5,300 years old. He was like that's what it says in the article. But there's
I mean, when you think back, when you think back even 300 or 400 years, people in this country knew nothing about acupuncture. And yet this guy is 5,300 years old, 5,300 years old, and they knew about it.
Mm-hmm. And she notes in the article, 15 of Auntie's tattoos are located on the bladder meridian. This meridian is traditionally targeted for the relief of back pain. So there's an example of one physical examination of Auntie's body revealed that he suffered from severe knee, hip, ankle, and back issues, as well as abdominal disorders. The point I was trying to bring that work in is that with the the meter, the EMF meters you're talking about, the Otzi and at least some of the people in this like Southern European area about 5,300 years ago were aware of acupuncture. We need to get more aware of these, the different like microwaves and everything else that is being pulsated at us, and just the awareness and being able to prevent something is something that's needed. It's been like the acupuncture has been lost to Western people. It's just, and Dr. Rue's talking about, well, if it's not a pill formulated by a white boy from European Christian descent, then it's by the devil. It's made by the devil.
Well, I think also, Mark, the fact that I don't think that any of the homeopathic holistic methods are meant to be used instead of, but they are meant to be used alongside of. I mean, because modern day science has some good things, and the homeopathic is helpful too. I mentioned last night that the Essiac tea is an old tea that is an Indian recipe that helps that helps cancer patients. It among other things, it gives them a better quality of life, and I saw it because my husband used it before he passed away. So it does help, and in some cases, if you use it early enough, it can facilitate a cure. She had over 5,000 documented cures to utilizing Essiac tea. So I don't think people should be. I'm hopeful that people are not locked into all traditional forms of anything, but are open to alternative methods as well, because a balance between the two will help us to be a healthier culture.
Yeah, and that I think that where you and Rita were going with the discussion last night, it's some of what we spoke about this evening is so many people present things. It's either my way or no way, black, white. It's just it's either or thinking, one or the other. There is no balance, and I think one of the successes that we've had, when the audiences left us feedback, or what we hear from them that helps us to grow and realize that we're connected with people. I think we're just kind of taking middle of the road approach. There's a balance. It's not everything is right or wrong. There's and like with like some of the acupuncture topics, it could be used in conjunction with some of the more up-to-date medical sciences. But there's like so many people just think it's either this or that. It is the only way that you're going to get better, but but we still really aren't going to cure you. We're just going to maintain the symptom. And, that's not working either. It's just maybe there needs to be a little bit more of a balance, and maybe when we get to these shows coming up, even with Maria Wheatley in 3 weeks or so. She can cover some of the earth energy healing phenomenon from the Avebury Stonehenge area, and we have another show in the end of June where we'll be looking at more Eastern Indian healing techniques. So, I think as we, if you look at some of the ideas we're going to be developing as we go through spring and into the summer, so some of the earlier ones are just kind of laying the foundations for topics later this summer. So, I just think I don't think that Nightlight has been an extreme type show. I don't think the topics coming up are extreme. It's just it's thought-provoking because it's based on something of substance. There's some science behind it. We're giving
I think also it's eclectic. It's not. I mean, if you find something that fascinates you, we'll do a show on it. If I find something that I think is so cool I can't believe it, we'll put it up there. I mean, we're not telling anybody what to believe or how to practice anything, but we're saying, hey, look at this. This is cool. And I think that so long as we are responsible with what we put out there, and we're really open to just about anything. There's aside from politics, which I refuse to cover. I'll do religion before I'll do politics, and religious stuff is fascinating to me too. I just politics is an area that I refuse to acknowledge exists because it's too crazy for me. But everything else, we're open to it. I mean, and we certainly do. We've had shows where we've talked about hauntings. We've had shows where we've talked about past lives. We've had shows where we've talked about astral travel. We've covered a lot of stuff, and we continue to be unique and varied and unusual. And so long as there's an authenticity to the person we're talking to, we're certainly open to putting anybody up. I mean, good Lord, Mark, you wanted to do the Barbecue King so bad it was amazing, and I think you still have him on the line. I think you still are talking to him,
yep.
Right?
Okay,
so there may be a show on a Barbecue King. You never know.
Yeah, and if not, there's some other. We might be able to get if Robert's still busy with his latest project. I might be able to get a local guy to discuss his technique. He might be able to sit next to me, and we'll talk about his recipes for making barbecues. Do some other ethnic food type shows. We have a lot of stuff in possibility, and I think that's one where that could be seen as our strength is just trying the possibilities and see what works. And it's I think we're back to the extreme type shows really don't last that long. It's like the shock value just kind of wears off. It's either funny or intriguing for a while, but it's just not. It becomes old hat quickly, and I think we're just.
Yeah, I say we're open to try anything, so long as it doesn't compromise, someone's moral
integrity
or integrity. Yeah. So but we are down to the last 2.5
couple minutes.
So, yeah, the show went fast. We weren't really sure where it was going, but it went fast.
No. We did have the show recently where we made some mistakes. Some other things were unfortunately said. We are just that was never part of the show. It was just that's live radio for you, and
happily it's gone, so it won't happen again.
Yeah.
And, we'll just be more vigilant next time.
Yeah. But there's we have other good stuff in the works. Just keep tuning in Mondays and Tuesdays. Keep checking the BarbaraDeLong.com website for when the shows are scheduled. With a couple shows coming up. I know with Maria, she's very appreciative that we're working her in like after her dinner time. It's mid-afternoon for us, but at least she doesn't have to stay up like to 3 to 5 a.m. to be our guest.
Okay, but Mark, you got to say goodnight.
Hey, we'll see everyone Monday night then.
Monday night.